Air defenses and counter-drone systems moved from afterthought to centerpiece across multiple regions this week.
You're my boy, Blue!
Gray zone pressure at sea and in the information space tested national responses without crossing into open conflict.
I'm freaking out, man.
In Asia's signaling, legal, cyber, and kinetic continue to compress decision time for regional militaries.
I'm a peacock! You gotta let me fly!
I am Mandatory Fun Day. This is Worldwide Wednesday. Here's everything you need to know in a couple minutes. As always, I will be reading my favorite comments at the end. Not all of them are nice to me. I cry in the shower where my enemies can't see the tears. Let's get into NATO, specifically Denmark. They make good Danishes. Denmark's defense intelligence reported that Russian warships repeatedly set collision courses, aimed weapons, and disrupted navigation systems while transiting the Danish straits that connect the Baltic to the North Sea. Officials framed the activity as escalatory gray zone behavior that risks miscalculation without constituting a formal act of war. These waterways are critical choke points for Baltic access and for Allied naval movements, so even small-scale harassment can carry outsized effects. This pattern forces Denmark to sustain higher tempo patrols and surveillance, increasing costs while hardening defenses of undersea infrastructure. The behavior seeks to probe rules of engagement and reaction times, testing where Denmark might draw red lines without giving Moscow pretext for broader escalation. Russia is notorious for escalation through probing, very notorious throughout history. They will do everything they can without escalating to full-scale conflict. They're going to harass you. If you were Copenhagen, what non-escalatory move best deters close abroad harassment? More escorts, more publicizing incidents, or more sensors? And if you're a redneck, you were wondering whether I was going to say wintergreen or some other flavor, but that's not the kind of Copenhagen we're talking about here. German media and officials signaled plans for 600 short-range air defense systems to counter drones and low-flying threats, with initial units already on order. Germany is ramping up its defense budget, and nobody should be worried about that at all. Should we, Germany? The systems pair a 30mm cannon, radar, EO sensors, and airburst munitions designed for FPV drone swarms and slow, small profiles that traditional GBAD can miss. I'm not a fucking air defense guy. I don't know what G-bad is. It sounds like it's probably good, though. It should be called G-good. Germany is closing a mobile SHORAD gap exposed by the Ukraine war, which demands layered defenses from point defense up to mid-range SAMs. Expect supply chain stress for programmable ammo, turrets, and queuing optics across Europe as neighbors evaluate similar buys. If you had to prioritize one layer this winter, guns with airburst, lasers, or more SAM magazines, what's your first spend and why? Let me know. Tell me why you're smarter than me. I know you guys love doing that in the comments. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia announced work on coordinated plans to move and shelter hundreds of thousands of civilians if a Russian buildup or attack created a refugee surge. We've seen refugee issues across the world for decades now, and it's massive, right? When you have interdisplaced persons or IDPs, which is what a lot of military individuals call them, you have huge issues, not just logistically, but also culturally. If you put a ton of people with a vastly different culture amongst another group, you can cause problems. Planning spans transport corridors, shelter capacity, medical services, and cross-border coordination, reflecting lessons from Ukraine's early war displacement. We saw a ton of refugee issues in the early Ukraine war. Civil preparedness is becoming a frontline capability, signaling that a shock offensive would not paralyze the home front. These plans also complicate adversary calculus by reducing the payoff of intimidation strikes on infrastructure and population centers. What's the one civilian capability you'd scale first? Mobile power, medical surge, or evacuation lift? I want to know your thoughts, especially if you got called Doc in the military. The Netherlands will host Steadfast Noon, which is not a bad Western movie. It's starting in October. It's a 2-week nuclear deterrence exercise featuring 71 aircraft from 14 nations with training focused on secure procedures. No live nuclear weapons are used. Officials described the drill as routine, but emphasized credibility, safety, and readiness amid heightened European tensions. Exercises like this provide assurance inward and deterrence outward, testing dispersal, base defenses, and command and control under strain. The visible schedule and transparency aim to reduce misperception while still signaling capability. Do routine nuclear-related drills stabilize deterrence, or do they raise political temperature? What do? Russia always seems to be raising stuff. So does North Korea. We're just not worried about North Korea because they can't even feed their own people. The video is not over, but let's talk about the mandatoryfunday.com. That's where you've got all my merch. If you want to support me further, you absolutely don't have to, but I really appreciate it. On the website, we've got a link for regulation compliant shirts that you can wear under your uniform if you're in the military, and we've got a membership section where I put exclusive content. Not that kind of exclusive content. I can't do that until I'm actually out of the military. You can get some feet pics though. I'll put some in there. Members also get 20% off. Let's get back to the video. I wonder how much trouble I'm going to get in at work for saying that. I'm not actually going to do feet pics. Let's get into the BRICS nations, which is a much crappier alliance. I don't know if you can actually technically call it an alliance. It's an economic thing, but it's a way cooler name than NATO, objectively. BRICS, come on now. Russia launches one of the year's largest strikes on Ukraine's energy grid. It was big. It was huge. A major wave of drones and missiles struck energy sites across at least 9 regions, causing widespread blackouts, transit disruption, and civilian casualties. The power in Kyiv was largely restored within a day, but it was still very significant. Ukrainian officials reported intercepting many incoming drones and some missiles while warning of repeated infrastructure targeting as winter approaches. And it's pretty obvious that Russia is just laying it on thick now that winter's coming, because people don't like to be cold, and people will actually, they'll take the long nap if they're too cold for too long. This play aims to stress air defenses, force generator use, and exhaust repair crews, imposing logistical and economic costs even when interceptions are high. If they can just do a little bit of damage, it has a very, very significant effect, because civilians don't like this kind of stuff. They don't want to be impacted by a conflict. I'm American, and in America, we are very well protected by oceans and a country to our top and bottom that is not going to attack us. It's effectively impossible to invade America, but that is not the case in a lot of places in the world. And you have a lot of Ukrainian civilians that are feeling the effects of the conflict. Ukraine's counter relies on layered SAMs, mobile SHORAD, rapid repair teams, and grid redundancy, but the tempo strains magazines and maintenance cycles. If you had to harden one node on the grid first, do you protect power plants, high voltage substations, or transmission lines? What do you think? I don't know where I was just looking. I'm not having a stroke, don't worry. China is offering cash bounties for alleged Taiwanese PSYOPs officers, and I know exactly what you're thinking. We're not going to discuss Luhan in this video. Police in Xiamen posted rewards for information on 18 individuals they accuse of being Taiwanese military psychological operations personnel engaged in separatist activity, including online influence and disinformation. This is not the separatists from Star Wars. Also, I'm sick of you guys all accusing me of being a PSYOP, because I'm far too effective to be doing anything for the government. Taiwan's defense ministry condemned the move as cognitive warfare, intimidation that has no legal force in Taiwan's jurisdiction. I do use that joke that I just made in stand-up, so if you hear it, if you hear me make it in stand-up, like if you come see my stand-up, you will laugh again. You will laugh again, despite the fact that you've already heard it. Okay, just give me a pity laugh. Public naming and bounty notices blend lawfare and information operations seeking to chill speech, pressure families, and erode trust within Taiwan's security community. The tactic normalizes cross-border policing narratives without kinetic escalation, complicating Taipei's counter-messaging. Does naming individuals deter activity, or does it harden public opinion against the issuer? What do you guys think? The Mahajan Range in Western India is hosting Indra 2025 from October 7 to 15, focusing on counterterrorism, live fire coordination, UAV integration, and combined arms maneuver. Combined arms maneuver, that's tough. That's when you got the thick boys, the tanks, moving alongside the infantry, usually. That's usually what people mean by combined arms. Also, if I mispronounce things in these videos, I'm not going to apologize, because my last name's von Letkeman, and every single baseball trophy I ever got growing up was spelled wrong, so get over it. The series aims to improve unit cohesion and tactics between the two armies while signaling continuity and bilateral defense ties. Anytime you've got, just different branches of service, different units in the same branch of service have trouble operating sometimes in militaries. When you take two different countries' militaries, different cultures, different languages, different equipment, it makes things infinitely more complicated. India maintains a diversified exercise calendar, balancing long-standing ties with Moscow alongside expanding drills with the US, Japan, and Australia. That's gotta be contentious. What an interesting Thanksgiving dinner that would be. The drills are tactically modest but strategically symbolic of relationship maintenance amid shifting global alignment. Do you view India's diversified drills as hedging or as leverage in defense procurement? What do you guys think? I've got strong opinions on this. I'm not gonna voice them because I want to hear y'all's. Please educate me. And finally, we're going to talk about Iran. I got corrected the other day. Somebody walked up to me in public and said, it's not Iran, it's Iran. All right, so I'll say Iran. All right, are you guys happy now? You shamed me publicly enough. You've changed my behavior. Thanks. Their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, said Tehran is open to considering a fair and balanced proposal on its nuclear program while stressing its claimed right to enrichment. He called for reciprocal confidence building, including some sanctions relief. They don't want to be sanctioned anymore because sanctions from the U.S. suck. The comments come as regional tensions and past stalled talks leave verification, enrichment levels, and sanctions sequencing as the key hurdles. The statement keeps diplomatic optionality alive and tests whether Washington and European capitals will outline a pathway that trades caps, inspections, and phased relief. Any movement would ripple through oil markets, maritime security planning, and regional air defense postures, even if formal agreement remains distant. What would be your first confidence-building step? Would it be, enrichment caps or banking channels for humanitarian trade? What do you guys think we should do? Here's a quick wrap-up of what we've talked about. Northern Europe is hardening air defenses and civil resistance while managing naval gray zone friction. Russia keeps infrastructure pressure on Ukraine for winter. China expands lawfare-style pressure around Taiwan. India and Iran each signal strategic balancing, one via drills, the other via diplomacy. I'm Mandatory Fun Day. This was Worldwide Wednesday, and that was everything you needed to know in a couple minutes, and now we're going to get into comment. Here we go with the first comment. David Mangle, he would make a fantastic traffic and weather guy. Thanks, David. I don't really know how to take this, and I also can't think of anything funny to say with it, but your last name is Mangle, I assume, and that's pretty fucking awesome. Bleep fucking Steve, please. Don't fall for it, guys. It's a PSYOP. Service doesn't guarantee that level of thickness. I'd add another C, but that C is for the cake you cannot see. Thank you, Dave Hart. I appreciate that. I am thick. I'm getting thicker in the wrong areas, but it's okay, because that's what we do when we age. Brian Shackelford said, you look like a cross-eyed Chisholm uncrossed their eyes. Love you content. Thank you. I don't even... That was funny. Brian, you're a funny man. Also, I don't know how angry you were when you wrote this because it's almost not coherent. Paul said, great summary of global military maneuvering. You are my favorite world news source. The bar must be low. Thanks, Paul. Fitch Music 8860 said, working on being a history teacher. If it's still going, I'm forcing Worldwide Wednesdays upon them. Let me warp those young minds. Let me warp them. Yunage 0244, one of my favorite Morty quotes, top tier advice. I don't know what the Morty quote was, or if I just sounded a lot like Morty in that moment and you thought I was quoting him, because I don't actually recall ever quoting Morty, but, thanks. Appreciate it. Rick and Morty is one of my favorites. Eric said the trees on your arm look dope. I bet lots of people have gotten lost in them. What are you implying here, Eric? You implying that I get around? What does this mean? I'm not going to show you guys the rest of that tattoo because it's my really douchey army tattoo. So it is what it is. It's for her eyes only. Into Sound said, I enjoy how infectious your positivity is, even while our government is falling apart and the whole world is just a couple bad decisions from total immolation. Live, laugh, toaster bath, and all that. I'm really happy that you used immolation correctly, and I haven't heard that word in a long time. So Into Sound 913, thanks. We appreciate your service tonight. After escaping the gaming, said, dude, I'm obsessed with Digimon. It's making a comeback this October 2025. You should do a Digimon video. It's topical and current. It's a great idea. I love Digimon. Juan Lopez, BB5HE. Do you have a stew stutter that you have been concealing through the majesty of editing? Calling you out, son. Kiss, moi. Yeah, sometimes I stutter. What's it to you? Juan Lopez? Are you good at basketball, Juan? Can you play some Juan on Juan? Aaron Fournier said 9987, what does any of this have to do with karate? I don't know. How does it affect LeBron's legacy? What's the length of a piece of string? I'm not sure. That's all the comments we have today. Thanks for watching until the end. And if you did watch this video to the end and you are in the military, you get 10% from the VA from tinnitus for listening to my voice for this long. I'll see you guys next time.